Right guys, before we start the video, I just want to let you know that the school community tonight, we've got another call. By the time this comes out, you should make it. It's at 8 p.m. GMT tonight. It should be a good one. I expect 40 or 50 guys to be on there as usual on a Friday night. I think we're going to talk about a various bunch of different topics, but I really want to talk about where guys should live around the world. The video I made the other day about Mr. International, I want to talk to you guys. We're going to have a specific high-level discussion, so if you want to be part of that, the link is below. It is $49 per month or £38 per month, so I'll see you there. Now, back to the video that you came here to watch. Right then, guys, welcome back to another video, and welcome to all the new people, because I imagine a title like this gets a lot of extra new people in. So I want to start very much with a story, and you guys will see on screen now. 3 years ago, maybe a little bit more because YouTube lists it weird, but 3 years ago today, I made the videos that were titled How to Get Hollow Cheeks. And there were two of them, and they did very well. As you can see, 90,000 views on both, and people, people really thought the content was good and it made sense. And people hadn't really heard this before. But the pushback was, hang on a minute, you don't have hollow cheeks yourself? And the amount of shit that I got in the comments was ridiculous. Now, was it justified? Yes. But years later, I've spoken to a lot of people, and they've said to me, do you know what? A few years ago, we did a podcast right here behind me a few days ago, which will be coming out soon. You guys will get to see it. It's about 3 or 4 hours long. You're going to love it. And the guy that was here said to me, look, I found your content about 3 years ago, and truth be told, I'll be honest with you, I thought you were full of shit. He was like, I was watching it thinking, this guy doesn't have hollow cheeks. Either he knows something I don't know, or he's the biggest scam artist in the world. And he was like, sitting with you today, I've now realized, hang on a minute, he's actually done it. He's actually pulled it all off. He's got the lean face, he's got the hollow cheeks. He did everything he said he was going to do. So 3 years on, I really want to revisit it. Especially here at the 1M House location. I think it's really cool. It's almost just like full circle. Everything I said I was going to do, I've done. So we're going to break this down, and I'm going to show you guys how to get a shredded masculine face in 3 years. Now, I think this is important because it took me 3 years, so you know that it can be done. I've got the receipts, I've got the before and after pictures, so I think that's why this is so important, okay? Now, little background story. I did a documentary, which I'll bring up on screen now, with Dr. Mike Mew a long time ago. And around about 12 years ago, I found his content on YouTube. It might have been 10 years ago. I was in Toronto in Canada, and I was like, this makes so much sense to me. So I attacked it. I started doing it religiously. I had trial and error. I was messing things up. I was finding things out for myself. It was really eye-opening, and I was getting results slowly. And I'd been doing it for a few years when I made the hollow cheeks video, but I didn't have, the whole hollow cheek thing. I didn't have the lean face and stuff like that. And that's what this video is about. The extra things that I did, and why during that 3-year period, even though I'd been doing it for like 5-6 years before that, why did it take those 3 years to really transform? And why has it been the last 6 months to a year where it is like thoroughly transformed and I've got the best results of my life, okay? So the first thing that I did was I started searching model tips. What do male models do? Because there's industry secrets. So I started searching what they do in the industry, certain things that they take, certain things that they eat, for example. I mean, this is a bonus tip. I only just remembered it. I forgot to write it down. But they have 2 avocados a day. And it's like that level of good fat going into the body can balance the bad fat and stuff like that. So I was finding all of these tips. I was finding what they do. And, as you go through life as a man, you want to be big, you want to be strong, you want to be masculine, but you forget to do your cardio. You forget that, as a kid, I used to sprint. And there's this statistic, which is like 95% of people over the age of 30 don't sprint anymore. I probably would think that was 25 and beyond as well. I don't think it would have to be 30. But when you realize stuff like that, you're like, oh, we're just getting slightly chubbier. We're gaining like 1% of body fat every single year. We're not active, we're not moving, we're puffy, we've got water in our faces. We're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So that was the first thing I did. I started searching model tips and like really going into detail as to what male models do and how they take themselves from, like, because everybody can get results, everybody can become an attractive guy, but it's like, how do you go into that top 10% bracket? How do you knock it up to a whole nother level? So that's really what I wanted to do. So let's get started with some of these tips, all right, guys? And I've recorded a bunch of footage today so you guys can actually see me doing it in reality, which I think would be cool. So number one, orthotropics. Here's the biggest point. And if you don't know what orthotropics is, that's mewing, that's, working on your jawline, facial exercises and stuff like that, or at least oral posture, where you place your tongue and etc. I've done many videos on that, so I won't go into detail on it. And there's many videos out there, you can find them. But orthotropics, I don't miss a day. I do not miss a day, right? So there's an NPC video of me doing facial exercises, and I'm going to do them again now. So if you want to record, then fuck it, it is what it is. But I will, every single day, I will chew, which I've got the device here, and I'll actually show you guys. So this is one of my best tips, okay? And this is something, so I learned from Mike Mew, you need to keep these strong. I also learned from Mike Mew, you can't use your buccinators when I met him in person. I found when I was chewing the tough gum, this was building up, this was getting stronger, but so were these. Like when you're chewing gum, you're shifting it around, it's moving around your mouth, your buccinators are getting bigger and bigger, it's hard for them to hollow out. So I went and bought this device. Now what I do is I chew it here, but I hold it. So instead of just like chewing it and letting it move around and whatnot, I hold it in position. So I'll show you guys now. And I do about 50 reps in the morning, 50 reps at night. Now, I discovered this because when I was chewing it, this is the toughest one as well. I've built up to this. So I was chewing it and I'd hold here. There's no movement. They're not moving. So I was like, okay, perfect. I can build up these muscles here without making these bigger. And that's one of the keys, is the buccinators, which we'll revisit in a minute because it's such a key component. And like I said, guys, I don't miss a day. I do 50 of those in the morning. I do 50 of them at night. And then I'll move on to the NPC exercises, stuff like this. So under here, what you've got is called the submental zone, which means sub-head under here. This is something that Mike Mew didn't actually tell me. I discovered it on my own from doing neck training. Neck training is wildly important, guys. Nobody does it. Let me just get rid of this B because I don't want it to go into my coffee. Neck training is wildly important. Nobody does it. If you strengthen your neck, you look a little bit more masculine. Every guy with a strong neck, just their face looks better, the body looks better in general. And it's something that nobody trains. You know, you can put a plate on your head. I haven't actually recorded this, but I do have a neck training video on this channel. But you can like put a hat on or something, put a towel over your head, put a plate here, do these kind of exercises. You can do it on like the side of your head and push it up, and it strengthens all of this. Everything gets stronger. But then one thing that people miss, and I'll show you an example, if you're looking down at your phone, right, you're relaxed. Here it's relaxed. You're looking down at your phone and this gets all gooey. You know, there's nothing there. Whereas if you sit up straight with your chin parallel to the ground, which is a fantastic body language tip too, all of this is strong. It's structured, so it strengthens it up. So what we found is that most people in the modern era are looking down at their laptop all day. They're looking down at their phone all day. I found as well, as a guy who's 6'2", everything in the world is at a lower level. So if I want to take something off a table, I'm looking down. If I want to grab like a knife and fork from the drawer, I'm looking down. All light switches are about there on me. So I'm constantly looking down. Everything in the world is down. If I'm dating a girl and I'm walking around with her, I'm looking down. I'm looking down at her like that all day. So it's just like, this is just so relaxed under here. So in order to compensate for the world, which is, you know, smaller than myself, and if you are a shorter guy, you still need to do it because life, you know, your phone, your laptop, whatever. But under here, I do exercises like this. I found that I had a whole routine in the past. These are the most effective ones. This is your 80-20 rule that then doesn't have an impact on your buccinators and stuff like that. Because I used to do some really wild shit. But for up in this region, I've already told you, you chew and you hold it there. So you get that chew from the center. It strengthens these without messing this up. But then for the submental, it's 2 exercises you need to do and nothing else, right? And it's this. Like you can see the neck being worked there, right? Now, I know I look like a weirdo and everyone's going to clip this up, which happened before, so it is what it is. Put the NPC music on it. But then you do the side one, so you need to get under here too. So you go to the side, and you can go to that side. So I'm religious with this shit. I'll do it every single day, so I'll probably do 50 of those in the morning. I will then do 30 of those straight tongue, and then to the side I'll maybe do 20. And then I'm done, right? I'll get on with my day. I will do the same at night before I go to bed, and I do not miss a day because it's like the Bruce Lee quote, I don't fear the guy that does 1,000 kicks a day, I fear the guy that does 1 kick a day for 1,000 days. Like, I see it more like that. It's an accumulation. That's why it's taken me 3 years, because you have to stay on that shit. You have to stay dedicated to it. Otherwise, It's just not going to work. And that's the key, is just working those muscles all the time. And under here, the submental zone, you have so many muscles under there. You have no idea. Go and search it. I might bring it up on screen if I've got time. But there's so many muscles under here. Nobody's working them. You got to keep them tight. Now, for the first few weeks, I've told a few guys in our school community, actually, like the inflammation will make it bubble up a little bit. So you might actually look a little bit puffier for a week or two. But, you know, because what you're going to get is like, you've never trained this muscle. The first time I trained this muscle and my neck, I woke up the next day, I was like, oh, I'm in so much pain. There was inflammation. It was all puffy. I looked worse. You're holding water in there and then it starts to drain, you know, your lymph nodes, etc. They start to drain and everything becomes, you know, as lean as it should be. And it takes a little while, but it's a good thing. If you start doing neck exercises or some mentals and you wake up and you're in pain, you're like, ah, fuck, what's Chris told me to do? It means that you had weak muscles under there. So you strengthen all of this up and then everything grows as it should do, everything tightens up, jawline becomes more shredded, and that's the first thing that I do, guys. Now, tip 2 is orthotropics again, and it's that I'm always conscious. And I was eating food earlier, we just had eggs on toast right at the house. Somebody made it for us kindly. And as I was eating it, like I always do this, right? So I chop up. The aim is to have small bites so that when you chew, you're not using the buccal muscles. I see people do this all the time. Shove loads of food in their mouth, shove it over here like a hamster, and this muscle just gets worked over and over and over again, and it makes the face puffier. The buccinator is a key to that, which we'll talk about in a minute. And what I do is, like, I was about to take a chunk of food, and I looked at it and I thought to myself, do you know what? That's a little bit big. Just cut that in half, Chris. Like, don't be greedy. Cut it in half and now eat it. I'm conscious about that all day. Like, for example, I've got a coffee here. A lot of people will swig it down. I'll do this. So these don't move. I just swallow with the throat. And I'm conscious of it all the time. It's become second nature to me. And that's my second tip, is I'm just on top of it all day, every day. I'm thinking about it all the time. And it's easy to stay on top of. Now, next up is buccinators are the key. So, what I mean by buccinators are the key. So you've got, like I said, buccinators are here. It's just, Mike Mew told me when I did the documentary with him that there's not a lot of fat here. A lot of people think there's massive layers of fat. And you see in Hollywood, a lot of A-listers, they have the fat stripped out. So they get an operation where they get this taken out and you see this look. And they just look really gaunt and stupid. Like, you can see when somebody's had it done, it's almost like the face starts to droop a little bit, but it's lean. It's almost like a ghoul look. It's almost like a ghostly look. I'm not a fan of it. I don't think it looks good. I don't think it looks natural. And you don't need to do it because this is mainly muscle. So it's like a bicep. If I'm curling all the time, my bicep's going to get bigger. If I stop training bicep, my biceps are going to shrink. And that's why most people have skinny necks, actually, because they never use them. They're always looking down. But with the buccinators, if you're chewing like a hamster and you're shoving food in there, if you're like chewing the gum and always using these, they're just going to grow, they're going to be puffy. And this was my biggest mistake. This is why it took me 3 years to get it right, because I was chewing the gum, I was doing all the exercises, and my face was getting wider, my jaw was getting bigger. I was doing the neck exercises, but what I turned into was like a big bulbous head, because this was puffy and this was wide, so I just had a chipmunk face. Like, my face just became like this. Like, you guys will remember, if you go through my channel, that's how I looked. Okay, and additionally, let me just check if it's on here so I don't... We'll throw it in as an extra tip, all right? So the next tip, we'll throw it in, it will lead on from this, is I was bulking. So it was hard to do, right? So if you're bulking and you're eating a shit ton of food, you're in a calorie surplus and you're trying to build muscle, you just got to take this shit on the chin, quite literally on the chin, the double chin. You got to take it on the chin, because you're going to look worse for a little while. You're going to look a little bit fatter. And I remember saying that to you guys. I was like, I think I made a video years ago saying, you have to look like shit before you can become handsome. I think it was along those lines, where I think you have to get fat before you can be handsome. And I think every guy kind of needs to do it. Now, do you need to get fat? No, you can go up to like 18% body fat where your testosterone is still optimal. You know, it's at the end range, but it's still optimal. But you can go and do that, and you almost have to do it. You have to get a little bit bigger. You have to put on the muscle. You have to bulk up. You have to become jacked and solid. And then later on down the line, when you've got that, 90 kg frame or something like that, you've got all the muscle that you require, you can start dropping the body fat. Now, here's the thing. It's not as easy as that because I've got pictures and I'll bring them up on screen now where I was lean, where I was dropping body fat, where I was cutting, but my face was still rounded, it was still puffy with great down gym lighting, which I've been in since and look really lean. So it's not necessarily that, which we'll get onto in a minute. These will be some more tips that I can give you that can break it all down. So submental exercises we've been through, that was one of my tips on here. Next one is curcumin, which is in turmeric. Okay, so this is one of the model tips that I found. When I was searching this, they said that models have a shot of turmeric every single day. Now, the science behind this is that you've got white fat in your body and brown fat. Now, white fat can't be broken down. Now, one of the only things in the world that can turn white fat to brown fat is turmeric, or curcumin, which is in turmeric. So they said that models have a shot of turmeric every single day. And I was like, well, I'm going to start doing it. And I found over a long period of time, like my face fat would just start to peel. So I could have had a six pack, I could have been shredded, but I still had like puffiness all around here. By doing that every single day and just having a shot of turmeric, I found that the white fat was converting to brown fat and it was getting flushed through the body. Like it was just easier to break down. I just became leaner and leaner every single month. I could just tell that it was happening. And that's another tip a lot of people don't know about, changing white fat to brown fat, because brown fat can get flushed out of the body. And next up is sprints. Like I said, most people don't sprint. If somebody said to me, you can only do like two exercises for the rest of your life, I'd probably do deadlifts and sprints. Because I think deadlifts can do like your full body, and then sprints also do your full body. There's nothing like it. Like, who wants to do cardio? Who wants to do boring cardio, go for a run for like 3-4 hours and stuff like that? I'm running a marathon, so like, fuck that. It just bores the hell out of me. I can't go to the gym, jump on a treadmill and run for an hour. I'm not that guy. So even with headphones, even with challenges, something on the screen, I just can't do it. Whereas sprints to me is just like 10-20 seconds flat out, up a hill. I think because it protects your knees when you do hill sprints personally. So just 20 seconds flat out, have a little rest, of like 2 minutes, whatever, and go again. It's just interval training, but it just keeps things a little bit more exciting. I think it's better on the body, and I've never shredded fat like it. And you think as a kid, that's all we did is sprint. You race your friend, you want to go somewhere? I'm going to sprint. I'm going to beat you. Everything's a game. Everything's a challenge. Everything's a race. We don't do that anymore. We stopped playing sports. We're not sprinting as much. And I think sprinting is such an effective way to drop body fat, and it's something that I did for 3 years, and it was able to, something I did a lot more in the last year, which is why I think I got the changes now in, more modern times in the last year. Next up is religiously training hard, which is obvious. I'm going to skip past it, guys, but I went to the gym every single day. Well, I went to the gym 6 days per week for like 3 years, non-stop. I just pretty much went every day, stuck to my routine, did what I need to do, and there's no rocket science to this one. There's no special tip. Consistency pays off, okay? Next up is 4 liters of water per day. It's a little bit harder to do. A lot of people do struggle with it, but 4 liters of water per day, if you can do it, just wake up in the morning, down a liter of water, you're ahead of the game. Down 1.5 liters of water, like with one of the big bottles. You're almost there. Do you know what I mean? You're almost there. It's not too far to go, and then just sip throughout the day. If you go to the gym, you can have another 1.5 litre bottle of water while you're there. You're up to 3 already. Like, you're pretty close. You just got to somehow finish it off. And then don't drink too late at night, because it can obviously make you wake up in the middle of the night, ruin your sleep, which isn't optimal for getting rid of body fat and stuff like that. So very simple tip, but this is another model one, is they would have 4 litres of water per day. Now what you can do is 4 litres of water, and in one of those litres of water you can put some turmeric, and obviously don't overdo it. Don't put like loads of turmeric in each one. But yeah, you can have a shot of turmeric, you can put turmeric in your water, you can drink that, whatever, okay? Next up is coffee and natural diuretics. So I'm drinking coffee right now, and I've got a natural diuretic supplement, which isn't on sale now. I'm thinking of bringing it back. A lot of people have asked for it, and obviously I've got the receipts now and proof, so it makes more sense to bring it back. But natural diuretics and coffee, it will keep your face lean, because it just flushes water through your body. So I'll take them on a regular basis, and it just stops you from ever storing water. On top of that, you're drinking 4 litres of water per day, you're sprinting, you're exercising. You're always going to be at your maximum leanness, because you can be lean, you can have a lean face, but you can just have a puffy few days. You know what it's like when you get off a flight, you've traveled, you're tired and whatnot. Like you do have bags under your eyes, you do look puffy, but these methods just allow you to not yo-yo. You don't want to yo-yo. You don't want to be like, I'm lean today, I'm puffy tomorrow and whatnot. You just want to be like pretty consistent there. You know, maybe you have a great day for a night out, maybe it drops a little bit, but it never really goes below that base level of like, my face is always lean. So that's one thing that I would do. Next up is walking. I decided, I was in Marbella 2 years ago, roughly, maybe a year and a half ago, with Rob Lipset filming for the streaming platform and for his podcast. And he said to me, you need to get out more and walk, because he was giving me tips for getting lean. And he said, you know, you need to try and walk 2-3 times a day. And I was like, yeah, but it rains where I am. Like, it rains, it's cold and whatnot. And he was just like, you just have to do it, man. So I decided, like, whether it was pissing down with rain or whatever, I was just going to be consistent. And now I walk about 2 times per day. I'll go out for a walk, I'll stroll around, I'll do like 20 minutes and whatnot. And I've learned to love it. Even if it's raining, like, I'm not an umbrella type of guy, but, you know, take an umbrella or something like that. And it's a massive effective strategy, because you don't realize how many calories you actually burn when you walk, guys. It's incredible. If you've got a calorie tracker, which I used to use, I don't use it anymore, but you go for like a 20-minute walk and you say it was a little bit of a hill, there was a gradient of this, I went here and there. It ends up being like hundreds of calories that you can burn. You do that twice per day. And it's just, you're moving more often, you're using your body, and the more muscle you have, the more fat you're going to burn. And it was just a really effective strategy for me. Next up is saunas. I honestly don't know the science behind saunas, but I know they work. I know Joe Rogan talks about it a lot. It's something to do with the heat. It breaks fat down. Also, just sweating a lot is really good for you, because it pumps the water and waste out of your body. You'll find in a sauna, the first moment you start sweating loads. And then after that, it becomes quite controlled. I think when you're sweating loads, I think that's all the shit coming out of the body. I think that's all the stuff you don't need. Allows you to drain the lymph nodes and whatnot, makes this look a little bit leaner. And what you guys are realizing, I think, as I'm going on here, is there's so many different things you can do. When you combine them all together, that's when you get that punch effect. That's like one thing on its own. I do saunas and drink water. Yeah, it's going to help. But when you do everything collectively, that's when you get some serious results. So saunas, let's add that in. Next up, I don't eat a huge amount. Like, I eat, but the guys here at the house will say as well, like, Chris, you don't really eat a lot. Like, I thought you'd eat way more. And I realized a few years ago, you don't actually need too much. You know, like, you guys have seen Andrew Tate. Like, Andrew Tate has like 1 meal per day and stuff like that. The guy's still jacked. He's still pretty big. You don't actually need to eat that much. And I'm not saying to starve yourself. I'm not saying to have 1 meal per day. I certainly don't do that. I have 3 or 4, but I don't eat a massive amount. As soon as I'm getting close to being full, I just stop. Whereas in the past, I would be like, I'm still hungry. I would just fire shit in. And this ties into my next point. I stopped eating cheat meals a few years ago. So I would have I've worked hard all week. I've worked on my business. I feel tired. It's a Friday. What should I do? I'll tell you what. No, that's a lie, actually. I wouldn't do it on a Friday just in case I went out on a Saturday. But let's say it was a Sunday night. And I would just be like, oh, it's raining, I don't want to go anywhere, like it's cold and whatnot. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to drive down to the supermarket. I'm going to go and get a cheesecake, a tiramisu, some dark chocolate and a red wine. I'm going to treat myself. I've been a good boy this week. Such a weak, childish mindset. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've been good, so I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to have a cheat meal, like cheat, treat, whatever. Like, fuck all those words. It just sounds so childish. Do you know what I mean? It just sounds babyish. And that's why you end up having this puffy, babyish look. And I just thought it's not worth it. And now my cheat meal might be like 90% dark chocolate, 1 strip, and that's probably it. And that's as far as I'll go now. And I stopped having the cheat meals, so I wasn't yo-yoing, I wasn't storing a ton of fat and whatnot. So I just don't really do it anymore. I used to have 1 cheat meal a week or something like that. I'd order on Uber Eats and whatnot. Now I cook all my food myself. I either go to a restaurant and cook it myself, but Uber Eats, you know it's going to be full of sugar. You know it's going to be fast food. You know it's going to come with draped in sauces and stuff like that. I just don't do any of that anymore. So that was a massive effective tip for me. Now the last one, and probably the most important one, is time. And time for consistency, number one, where you're going to have to work your nutsack off and just do it over a long period of time to see the results. But number 2, and this is complete bro science, but it's something that I will die with. And we were saying about this earlier here at One House. We were all training, and we all said, the reason that this information doesn't exist is because nobody's willing to do a 5-10 year study. But the idea behind it is fat cells, you can't get rid of them. Once you've got them, you can't get rid of them. They either shrink or grow and stuff like that, right? So I'd do a bulk, I'd gain all these fat cells, and then people would be like, you'll never get rid of them. That was stupid. Why'd you do that bulk? And I always said, I genuinely think from what I've seen in the world, if you're consistent over a long period of time, doing the correct habits, I do think, like I said, it's bro science, but I do think that fat, for example, white fat will turn to brown fat. I just think when you've done it long enough, I just think it starts to drop off your body. That's what I've seen in other people. It's what I've seen in myself. For example, I've been extremely lean with a six pack, but I've still had a puffy face. And then 2, 3 years later, that puffy face is gone. You've got hollow cheeks, everything's lean, and you're just as lean on the belly. And you're like, so what the hell happened? Like, why am I not losing fat congruently from head down? It's just because you've got some stubborn fat that maybe, like, in my opinion, and I said this bro science, but I swear to God this works. 18 years old, I go out for a few beers, I get drunk, I have a kebab, I wake up the next day, I eat some shit food, I have another couple beers, I watch the football, I eat some more shit food. The fat that was stored that day, maybe I never got rid of. Maybe it just stuck with me and stayed in my body. I think what you're doing when you do good habits over a long period of time is you're cancelling that out. I think you're counteracting it and you're working away at that over, like, let's say a 5, 6 year period. And to put it on, it takes minutes. It literally takes days, weeks, whatever. But to get rid of it, I think it's just year after year of good, consistent habits. And you're like, oh, I look great. I'm lean. The scales say 12% body fat. I look fantastic. But I think to get to that real, like, next level, to really chip away at it and just find the real stubborn fat in these gaps here, the stubborn fat that would just be like hidden here, or, you know, in the buccinator and whatnot. It just, that just takes consistency. And I think, like I said, it's complete bro science, but I honestly do believe, because there's no studies done on this, because it would be too long to do a study on. And number two, who's that consistent over 10 years and who's going to monitor that? The funding just wouldn't be there. But I swear to God, if you're consistent, and that's why I said it took me about 3 years really, of like locking in and being like, right, I'm not bulking anymore, I'm going to go for this. Once you do that and you do all the other tips that I gave you on this list, I swear to God, guys, you will go from that puffy face little boy look to having that shredded masculine face, shredded jawline, high cheekbones, and that attractive model face.